Right, welcome back to Marineverse Sailing Club and Ask and Ye Shall Receive. So yesterday I made a video and I was a bit frustrated with this web map control here. So look at this. We can still zoom in and out here, but now we've got a nice button layout. So we can move around the map without the glitching. So thank you very much for adding that. Makes a big difference. As you can see, AI kind of sailed me a little bit up Loch Ridden. This is quite a boring loch in Scotland. I don't remember there being much up here. As you can see, there's no villages really or towns or anything. As far as I remember, there is a road that goes alongside there. It's not very interesting. And we'll just sail down to Elan Dhu again and get into Caladh Bay. So I can actually come off the wind a little bit. Something like that. Get a little bit of boat speed. Trim the sail a little bit better. There we go. Yeah, let's have a look on the other maps to see what's down here as we sail. So that was the Caladh Butte. It's up ahead and to the left there. We went past the Burnt Islands. And Caladh Bay, this very nice anchorage in real life, is just up ahead. So let me open the browser. It should remember these web pages I've had open. In case you're wondering again, once you've got this up in Quest, you just need to click somewhere in the game or the app that you're using and it should go back to that. So easiest way to get to everything is to go to that page which I've bookmarked there, and we'll have everything we need. So we can minimize that. Don't need that browser window. Yeah, so here we are, west coast of Scotland. Still nobody decided to join me, I see here. And you do see my trail at this zoom level. So a small green line there, just visible. And then I see the trail for the last day when I zoom in there. So this was zigzagging through the Kyles here. And we had to tack through the Burnt Isles, which was inconvenient. Then I had to go offline again, and I'm up here in Loch Ridden. Now, the interesting thing was the wind map. So try and click back in the space. The wind map here, it's still windy. There's the leftovers of this storm. As you can see here, there's very strong winds just off the west coast of Scotland. Germany over here where I am is okay now, but the west coast is still windy. And what I wanted to show you that there's not much up Loch Ridden. There's a road both sides and a bit of a walk by that side. No town here. Unusually, it's a loch head of a loch with no town. But yeah, this area is pretty raw. And all I remember about Loch Ridden was there were two kind of super tankers or big oil rigs that were parked. Yeah, actually, it was oil tankers or bulk carriers were just permanently moored here, so deep water. And I think there was even an oil rig here. So middle of the beautiful Scottish countryside and two big, some big rusting hulks. Again, we're just going to come in here. Let's see what's in the wiki map. Any new information today that works. Elan Dhu. I thought this was supposed to open up something. A page for these things, but it's not seeming to do it. That's fine. We know how windy it is. We've got our conditions here. Yeah, so let's just enjoy this little sail here. I'll stand up. And it seems like some of the terrain is a bit messed up here. This is not, as far as I know, the Marineverse sailing data. It's data which I guess is open source, and it's imported, if you like, into the game. It might be cesium data, it might be Google Earth, Might be any other terrain data, so that's not really the fault of the developers here, it's just what you get. Oh, yeah, so let's go back. I'll sit down here. There's a couple of other features worth testing. So 2 players here. I'll do a radio check, so let's see who's on. Spring Diver. Calling Spring Diver. This is Tartansky, currently in the west of Scotland. Do you read? Over. Calling Spring Diver. This is Tartenstorm. Do you read? So scared him away, or her away. Decided not to play. Maybe they were sneakily playing it at work. Let's see. Alright, so I think it's a good feature. If you look in the Discord, you'll see that Greg has suggested that we do this kind of radio check just to test this functionality, like on the hour. So I'm not on the hour, but that's fine. We'll just cruise down here. 10 knots wind. I might want to come away from the wind a little bit more. Get a little bit more speed and do a bit of attack. You'll see there that having my jib clearly adjusted is steering me here. So we should look at our telltales. And there's an element of boat balance in the game now, so let's just tune that to the maximum speed. In this case, okay. So I could use a bit of weather helm against it. That worked quite a lot. So she should sail without any weather helm, so up to 4.7 knots now. Yeah, and Caladh Bay, you can just see the island opening up now, so there's a gap there. You can just see at the end of my pointer. I can't remember if it's left or right eye. You see, but it should be the same pretty much either way. So there's the gap that we're going to go for. It's right on the wind, of course. So let's just see how much we can get there. Keep our course. Keep it this 4 knots. Alright. So we're not far from our anchorage now. I have actually sailed in and anchored in Caladh Bay before. Ironically fighting the wind again. So the wind, I think yesterday, was coming from here, which meant I had to tack through these burnt islands just over there. That's the west coast of Scotland, Glasgow, Greenock, through there. You should be able to see the land normally. And this part of the Caladh Butte goes to Tynebrew, and then you've got another peninsula, then you can go around to the north again and you get to Tarbert. Tynebrew, this area is famous for a TV series called Parahandy, and the ship in that was called the Vital Spark. I think it was Gregor Fisher, the guy that plays Ramsay Nesbitt, was even in that in his young years. And the puffer, the Vital Spark, you could see at Crinan, which is where I'm ultimately heading for on the canal. But there was another puffer. The puffer is an old steam inland coastal cargo vessel called the Vic 42 or the Vic something 32 maybe, and that used to sail around this region as well. So, getting nice and close, we're going to use this new map controls. Yeah, so in reality you're not supposed to come in this way because there's this rock here, but we'll try and sneak in, attack into the bay across there. Now, this island is really fun. West of Scotland's really fun for kids growing up because you've got these very sheltered bays and very nice conditions. And as a kid, this was the first place when we were anchored in here that I was allowed to take the dinghy by myself. So I took the dinghy, rubber dinghy that was always deflating, I think just with the oars actually, which were made from 2 old broom handles. And I rowed it across to this island with my sister, and I think the dog was even in the dinghy. And this island has actually got quite a lot of verticality to it, so it's a kind of hill, if you can imagine, shaped like that, covered in rhododendron sort of dense foliage, and there is a slipway on the other side of the island. In fact, maybe we should just go the other side. And then we stopped off on the island. It had a gateway we saw, an iron gate that we followed, and somebody cut the grass. There was a little bit of a strip of grass had been cut. So we followed this path, and there's a family graveyard on that island, Roondu, which is very spooky when you're by yourself. So you can see there we can cut into Caladh Bay. The correct navigational solution would be to go around it and tack in. But I think I'm already going to put in my tack. I want to see what I'm doing wrong with my tack here. So we come close hold. And ready about. Wheel goes through. The main to bring around. Alright, that was a bit better. I think it was just wheel. The amount of wheel movement I had wasn't enough. So this will actually get us in the bay. Cool. So in this video you might actually get to see. Just a reminder in case you're wondering, you can go down below. You can even go in the bed. I think you have to lie down or something to make that work. Oh. Right. As a kid, I remember, jumping in and out of this hatch while the boat's going along was really cool, especially coming into harbour. I'll come across to this side. I can see. So that rock there so good that the map works. This rock here, typical West of Scotland rock, is surrounded by shallows, seaweeds, and I can sort of bet you that there's, that between the rock and the land there's definitely, some shallows and probably just almost walkable between the main island and this rock here. So we'll come in, get back in my steering position. We'll come in to the right here, give it plenty of space. Speed. Now, one of the cool things about this app, of course, here's an idea, Greg. So I can stand up here. I think other people have asked for anchoring. So typically you'd have a crew member coming into an anchorage like this, standing at the front of the vessel. And they would be spotting for you, looking for lines, rocks, anything that the helms person, the skipper, can't see from the back. Do I need to undo something there? Maybe. No, there's no handle. Alright. So yeah, so very useful to have somebody at the front like this ideally right up the front. But because I've got my Quest controllers, I can still steer the vessel and I can control the sails. So here we are. This is Caladh Bay. You have to use your imagination. Imagine this as an island here. Very sheltered, predominantly sort of westerly winds. So there's a couple of things I'd like. One is a little compass. And maybe even remote controls here for anchor would be really cool, just to have this here. Anchor and sails actually, but I don't mind using the hand controllers. So yeah, you always have somebody up the front, and this person would be a small boat. You don't even have a windlass, you just chuck the anchor in, and then we'll sort of simulate what that's going to be like. So depending on your sails setup, depending on your sails setup, you might just dump that jib there, get it out of the way. Yeah, and then bring the vessel into wind. And I'll probably just let the main flap here so it slows down. Once your boat comes to 0 speed, let's just put the main out. This, let her drift. I'd say drop the anchor, and of course you measure the depth with your depth sounder if you can. And then, as you can see here, we're drifting backwards. And that's the row, 5 times the depth. Maybe it's 3, but at the 5 is a good safe, maybe 7 in length. So you want your anchor to be go along the sea bottom. That's what really holds it or stops it from coming out. And then your anchor should be coming vertically up. The chain, sorry. So you'll be slipping back like this. Quite a tight anchorage. This is quite realistic, I think, to anchor in. So what I'll do is I'll put the sail down. I'll stop actually. So simulating anchored. So this is quite common. You go back like that. You've got your 7 lengths of chain out, or your 5, and then you're like, damn it, the back's a bit close there. However, if it's deep enough, it might be okay. So that you then have to go and calculate or figure out what your swing's going to be. So you have kind of 2 swings. In a light wind, you'd almost pivot around where the anchor's touching the seabed, so it might just swivel around nicely like that. But if it's a strong wind, you're going to pivot around more or less where the anchor's in the seabed. So you might have to figure out what your 7 lengths of anchor is towards that shore, which I know is a sandy beach, or a semi-sandy beach over there. Yeah, anyway, here we are, Caladh Bay. I'll just bring my boom over there. Okay, I can't get the side actually, because it's in the way of the companionway. Once you're sure your boat's an anchor and it's stationary, I just move back into this position. So I'd normally sit here as the captain and take an angle. So a fixed point on the vessel, and you line it up with a bit on the land. And if you're not moving relative, so that land's not moving forward, then you're not slipping. So you need to take a couple of angles, typically a couple of bearings, see that your boat's steady, use your GPS as well. So you can see actually we're probably way too far this side of the bay. I think you could probably get 4 or 5 boats in here, it's relatively big. Yeah, and then once you're sure your boat's secure, with an engine, you'd be pulling it back against the chain to make sure that you're really in. And on the big charter boats, I give it quite a lot of power just to dig the anchor in, so you're kind of peace and quiet at night time. And then you would go inside and you would get the kettle on. It's underneath here. I need to watch some YouTube videos from the couple that supplied this boat. Yeah, and wet day like this in the west of Scotland, perfect day to be inside the boat, and you just check your weather, maybe you come up, if it's a steady wind, you could come up with a point that you can check when you're inside. I usually have the iPad sitting